Rear Admiral Arguin, over the past few years, I have continued to raise concerns about the widespread presence of Chinese-manufactured cranes in our nation's ports. I'm particularly concerned about the use of Chinese technology and equipment, as well as the ports industry's over-reliance on Chinese cranes. On April 3rd, I joined several of my colleagues in sending a letter to DHS asking about their efforts to address the vulnerabilities related to these cranes. DHS has yet to respond. Can you explain what security measures the Coast Guard has in place to evaluate foreign manufactured equipment and software and use at our ports? These can include cybersecurity assessments, penetration testing, configuration review, or malware vulnerability assessments.
Mr. Chairman, so the Coast Guard's role in ensuring port security from the local level, the local sector commander, captain of the port, uses its maritime security specialist to engage those entities that have ZPMC cranes. At that local level, they've had conversations about potential vulnerabilities identified with our partnership with CISA. We've also engaged our cyber protection team, elements of our Coast Guard Cyber Command, to perform voluntary assessments of those networks to better understand the vulnerabilities associated with those systems, as well as systems throughout the ports. At the regional level, the Air Maritime Security Committee, we've had conversations with each of those entities to ensure they understand the potential vulnerabilities and the likelihood of a potential disruption. And at the national level, I've had similar conversations with leadership with port authorities around the country to make sure, A, they're aware of the potential vulnerabilities and that get a better understanding of the potential impacts that those vulnerabilities may have.
Do we have laws in place that actually hinder ports from not buying these cranes?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not aware of the specifics on purchasing particular equipment. I am certainly interested in understanding those networks and who has access to those networks to better understand the potential impacts on the commerce.
Okay, switching gears a little bit. During the week of February 27th, 2023, the Coast Guard, working with the State Department, scheduled facility visits for a Cuban delegation that included members of the Cuban Border Guard and the Cuban Ministry of Interior. This visit would include a tour of the Coast Guard headquarters here in Washington, D.C. After my colleagues and I raised concerns with this visit, the Coast Guard canceled the headquarters portion of the unit tour, but continued with the rest of the scheduled activity. As early as January 2021, global Magnitsky sanctions were placed on the Cuban Ministry of Interior for its complicity in serious human rights abuses in Cuba. Individuals from the same Cuban ministry were invited to tour our Coast Guard headquarters. According to DHS, in December 2022, the Office of Foreign Assets Control and the Treasury Department put into place a new general license for the Global Magnitsky Program that authorizes all transactions otherwise prohibited, provided that they are for official U.S. government business. Can you confirm whether the Coast Guard received a license to invite members of the Cuba's Ministry of Interior, a sanctioned entity, to tour their headquarters? Has the Coast Guard requested additional licenses for foreign delegation visits since then?
Mr. Chairman, I will have to get back to you on whether or not we received any specific licenses for foreign visits to other countries' headquarters. The International Port Security Program is a vital opportunity for us to evaluate foreign ports, ships that call on those foreign ports before they get to the United States, and that reciprocity that we've established to ensure that international standards are being applied uniformly and then evaluated so that best practices could be shared is an important aspect of the layered approach that the Coast Guard takes.
Do you think that Cuba is a friendly nation to the United States?
Mr. Chairman, the Coast Guard's responsibility for ensuring port security and ensuring the international norms that have been established under IMO requires us to ensure that we have reciprocity on those ports that have interest for the Coast Guard. If ships call on those ports and then intend to call on U.S. ports, we want to better understand what the security measures that are in place in those ports so that we can effectively evaluate security in our own ports.
Okay, thank you, and I yield back, and I'll